There's so many lovely creatures in Minecraft's oceans. And today, we're not going to talk about any of them. Yes, we're here to discuss everyone's favourite monobrowed monstrosity, the Elder Guardian.
I find guardians in general very scary, and the Elder Guardian is particularly scary.
So I hope, viewers, you won't mind if I narrate today's episode like this. As an incredibly handsome man, I think it's fair for me to say that guardians look absolutely bizarre. A huge one-eyed fish monster covered in spikes and who should really book an eyebrow waxing. If we had to describe them in a few words, it would be something like
Elder, Guardian, Spellcaster.
Yes, we were hoping 2 out of the 3 words you used wouldn't just be its name.
It's clearly an aquatic something.
Ancient, laser-focused, and wisdom.
The animals of the deep can be so mysterious and so scary.
The Elder Guardian is, let's call it a wise guardian. That has been there for a very long time. But the guardians themselves, I regard them as any other animal in Minecraft, just like a fancy, hostile creature that lives underwater.
Guardians and Elder Guardians were introduced in 2014's Bountiful update. It was a simpler time, where Minecraft's oceans were much emptier. Picture a big boring bath with the occasional squid cameo.
Today, after the update Aquatic, there is of course a lot to find in the waters. You have coral reefs, fish and so forth. But back then, the oceans were essentially an underwater desert.
We added the ocean's monuments, this really impressive, challenging structure. It made the oceans more exciting to explore.
Even though they are quite common in the oceans right now, they weren't easy to find back then. The simplest way was to track down a cartographer, then cough up enough emeralds for them to give you a map to one, or snub the cartographer and just go searching the ocean for one.
The ocean monument looks a little bit like an ancient pyramid with 2 wings, and the entrance is in the middle underwater, and inside you find a collection of rooms that are arranged as a 3-dimensional maze or labyrinth.
That the shape is sort of like an inverted pyramid is interesting because of the way that pyramids are connected to mystery.
Speaking of mysteries, when Samuel tells you what the inside of a Guardian looks like in a second, you'll wish that had remained a mystery.
If you are like in spectator mode and you look inside the Guardian, you can see that it's red and it kind of looks like the whole thing is just a big bloody eye or something.
Lovely. While we're on the subject, seriously, what's with the giant eye?
Colossal squid in real life is the animal in the planet that has the biggest eye. It has like an eye out of like a dinner plate size. And I think that's the same thing with the Elder Guardian. There's no brain. It's just eye.
I'm not ashamed to admit that one of my favorite monsters from Dungeons & Dragons is the Beholder. So that was one of its inspirations. It took me some while to actually get the texture right, and then I thought, yeah, I can just write that I did this.
You might think Guardians are best avoided, and you'd be, right. But then you'd miss out on the treasures the ocean monuments contain. Treasures like the sponge. Okay, I probably shouldn't have opened with the sponge. Still, the better loot in an ocean monument is the golden blocks, prismarine blocks, crystals, and shards which can be used to make beautiful sea lantern blocks.
You use them to build your conduit, so that's a powerful thing. Well, I think they're guardians of something a bit more deep than just the gold blocks you can find there or the sea lanterns. I think they're guarding a secret of some sort, a mystery.
Intriguing, but I'll warn you now, the loot that we do know about won't be nabbed by you in those monuments without a fight.
Their most iconic attack is the laser.
The model for the beam was constructed so it was always pointing up, and then I used the render parameters to make it look like it was pointing in the way it should point. But I admit it took a while before I actually got the math right.
They have another attack that isn't as iconic. No, for this one I think we'll go with the word annoying.
They will try to protect the building by applying fatigue to anyone who gets near, and fatigue makes it hard to break through the blocks.
Fatigue is a nasty status debuff to stop players just mining through the walls of the labyrinth. But Minecraft players are famously crafty and have found clever workarounds, like crafting a makeshift airlock and then slowly descending through the monument until you've reached the Elder Guardians but outside of their precious water. Or dig a tunnel below the ocean. Pop up like a crafty little mole. Sneaky.
I'd call it a mini-boss in the sense that it's very strong, it's persistent, it only spawns in these locations and want to respawn, but it's not so strong as a boss, so it has its own health bar.
A mini-boss so powerful that we couldn't stop it from breaking out of Minecraft and into our other games. True story.
In dungeons we have regular guardians, which you fight all throughout the Hidden Depths DLC. Then there is the Elder Guardians, which is harder mobs that spawn throughout the mission once in a while. And then the Ancient Guardian, which is the final boss of the Hidden Depths DLC. And it's a guardian that is corrupted by the Orb of Dominance energy.
Oh dear. Maybe I am scared of them now after all. Anyway.
They're supposed to be challenging, but sometimes I just want my sponge and prismarine.
If only there was another mob I could bravely use as a distraction.
When the Guardians were added, the only other water animal that existed was the squids. For some reason, I really find it fascinating when mobs fight other mobs. That makes any game really have it alive on its own. So that's why when I added the Guardians, I also made them attack squid.
So they're terrifying underwater even for squids. But how about outside of it?
When a Guardian ends up on land, it just keeps on jumping and jumping and it tries to get back to water. So if you put it on slime, which makes you bounce and jump higher, it eventually gets to very high heights.
It's so silly to hear like flop, flop, flop. These majestic creatures, and they just sound like little fish dry on land.
To be fair, so do I. Speaking of sounds...
When the Elder Guardian gives you the fatigue effect, they play this jump scare in front of your face.
I think it's a really, really cool sound, and I know it has scared so many people.
The reason for that is, of course, from a game design perspective, when we apply an effect on a player, it must be clear where that effect came from. And in this case, I wanted to connect the effect with this mini-boss, if you would like.
Intriguing. Wait until I tell the members of the Elder Guardian fan club about this. That shouldn't take long, considering I'm the only one. See you next time.